Yeah, so was it
You can make the evening session.
So it's 9 p.m. 1:30.
Yeah. So
it's 9 p.m.
Yeah. So it's 9 p.m. in the evening till we'll might go on till about 10 to 10, something like that. So the idea is that it's a
Right.
nice kind of preparation for bed. You know, we'll do a bit of meditation, just kind of winding down the evening, and we'll finish by 10, and then you can go and there's some pre-bed reading. You can go do a bit of that, start winding down, and you're in bed by 10:30. So that's the daily schedule. From next week, there'll also be some meditations that you can do. I don't want to overload you guys, but you can do some meditations during the day. So there'll be one session at 9:30 in the morning and another one at 6 in the evening. Just 20 minutes, just pure meditation based on breath, etc. So you can join any of those sessions if you want to. So it's just about finding, I think, your own rhythm with this course. You know, find what works for you. Ideally, if you can do one discussion session a day, I think that's you're doing pretty well. Some people, like in the first course we did, there was one guy who liked to do 2. He did both of them, and that's fine if you want to do both, because there's a different energy in the 2, the ones during the day, the ones in the evening, and every session's different. You know, different things arise. I tend to kind of go with the flow in it. Just see what works for you. But during the day, like you can take your lunch. You know, take your lunch break. You can eat lunch while you're doing this, and participate if you want, or you can just listen in. We'll start every session with about a 15-minute to 20-minute, maybe in the evening, meditation. So I think maybe let's do that to start. Let's Hazel just introduce herself because she hasn't done that.
Hi, session I've been studying since about 2005, but I still feel there's a lot of I need to do, so I'm letting go. Issues in my life.
We all have issues, you know. It's just how it goes. That's why it's an art. I call it the art of it. It's not. No one teaches us this. It's not a science. It's not something you can go get a degree in. But it's, in my view, the most essential skill in the world, to learn how to let go. I mean, very few people will teach it. So I'm just getting a bit of interference.
That seems like, but
yeah, I am too.
I haven't had evidence of it.
Yeah, it's like a squeak in the background.
Yeah. Let me just mute you guys and see what.
Yeah.
I'll mute. Okay, there we go. It's gone. Then we can't interact. Okay. Oh no, actually, that seems to have. Yeah, you actually haven't been. There we go. Someone's muted. Lebo's muted. I think it was Lebo. Debbie's unmuted. I don't know what's happened. Maybe it's your microphone, Lebo.
Should I unmute?
Oh, now you're unmuted. Okay. So during the meditation, I'll just mute you, and then I can unmute you. Yeah, and you probably know me and my story. I've done my introduction in the introductory session. So, but I'm as much a participant as you all are. So I'm also doing the course. I found it really helpful personally for me to do the last course, because it makes you practice. It makes you really pay attention to Course in Miracles and to these things, and just take it to another level. So I'm looking forward to doing that with all of you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Mm.
You always learn. You can do it 100 times, and you always learn something new. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of A Course in Miracles. Is there's such depth to it. There's something called levels of significance in spiritual teachings, and the course has these levels of significance. It means that the deeper you go into it, the more significant the messages become. They don't become less and you go, oh, yeah, I got that. It's more like, hang on, okay, so like, yeah, let me like really read into that. Just doing the introductory session, for instance, the introduction, which is your reading for today. Just reading that. I mean, I've read that hundreds of times. You can read that, and every time you're like, okay, so what is he really saying? What is he really saying? And it's like you're familiar with the idea of a Zen koan.
Yeah.
A Zen koan, you know, in Zen Buddhism, they give the teacher, the master, gives the students a phrase to just work on. It's like mind training. So, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Is a classic Zen koan. Because then the guy goes, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. What's the sound of one hand clapping? And he starts thinking about it, and he thinks about it, and then he like, so what do you mean, master? And the master doesn't tell him. It's just like, just go with that. Just do your inquiry on that single statement. And so the course in many ways is like that. You know, you can read a phrase and you can go, okay, so what does that really mean? And you can just kind of ponder it, and your own reflection takes you deeper into it. You know, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. That's, you know, in the introduction. That's like a Zen koan. You can every day you can go into that and go, okay, so I'll see it slightly differently every time I do. So yeah, hopefully we'll explore all those perspectives. And if you have a perspective, something comes in an insight, then please share it, because that might be something that no one else has had. Or it goes, yeah, actually, wow, that's amazing. That gives me a new perspective. Well, that really helps me with the question. So that's the power of a group and the group energy. Okay, so let's do a little meditation. It's I'll take you through a miniature version of the 1 hour meditation that I've given you. Have you all got that? Got the emails and downloaded the tracks, and you've all got that?
Talking about
No, thank
The
you.
morning meditation.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I asked yesterday. But you
Okay.
can get-
Yeah.
I want to know why you started from, it sounds like the solar plexus chakra, which is the yellow. Sacral is the orange, and that's where I have all my issues. I've had to have a backup. I've now got, what do they call this thing? Can't think of the name offhand. But it's all started from down there. And it runs in my family as well.
Why do I start? So you touch just underneath the belly button, about an inch above the belly button. Now, some people say the third chakra is in the belly button. Some people say a little bit below, and then the sacral one. So, you know, it just depends. But there's an energy point definitely around the belly button. So you touch that. The main thing, don't get hung up on it's the second chakra, it's the third chakra. The idea is that you just feel that there's an energy that you're connecting with, and you should feel a warmth and a heat.
Yeah, but do I visualize orange or yellow?
It's up
orange
to you.
is for the sacral and yellow.
It doesn't really matter. It's, you know, don't get too hung up on,
Never
you know,
mind.
who says orange is for who makes up these rules? You know what I mean?
I did a thesis on it on my chakras.
I know, but it's all in the mind.
Carried down.
It's been carried down because someone at some point sees orange there. But just go with, like, if you're doing it, try and just be spontaneous and let whatever color arise. If it arises, I don't see colors really at all. That's not my thing. So I feel an energy.
You don't mention that.
No, because we can't. There's not enough time to do all of it. So I picked the four, what I think are the four most important ones, and you just work up from there. You could actually do a meditation on all 7.
No,
that would take longer. Yeah. So, you know, the third chakra really is your power center. So that's where there's a lot of blocks. People get blocked in their third chakra. And they say that third chakra is the block between the lower self and the higher self. So it's called the power center. It's the center of ego, and it's where a lot of people get stuck in their spiritual journey because they can't let go of that desire to control and power in this world, and that's all kind of centered around there.
The emotions.
Yeah, and then there's a, you know, and that's, people often feel in their stomach, they feel these emotions. So it's an energy center there. So you start unblocking that, you start kind of freeing this energy to move up into your heart. And once you kind of gone through the third chakra and you open the heart, then you know, you start to open up all of it. And the idea is ultimately through that meditation to get a nice open flowing energy in all the chakras, and the blocks are removed, and there's just a nice flow up and down the spine of energy. And that's going to take time. You won't, you know, get to full samadhi, they call it, where Kundalini rises up to the head in 6 weeks, but it's, you know, you just systematically work it. In fact, you probably wouldn't want to do that. 6 weeks is way too quick. It's just, you know, something that happens over a year, in a lifetime. But the meditation is designed to do that. It's designed to open the chakras and start systematically pulling that Kundalini energy, which sits in the base, up the spine, and that's, you know, all the yogic techniques are based on that idea, that you're gonna raise the Kundalini energy up, you're gonna release the blocks, and when that rises into the head and there are no blocks, you have what they call samadhi in the Sanskrit. You have a samadhi experience, which is union with the divine, which is this deep connection, this bliss, this joy, that, you know, that comes, but it only comes with a lot of practice. You can't just go to samadhi like that. It's, you know, it's a process. So that meditation I've given you, there's a lot in it. There's, you know, all this breathing, there's opening the chakras, there's working with energy, visualization. But the idea is it's multidimensional, and you're going to focus on whichever aspect of it is going to work for you. So if you don't do colors very well, then forget the colors. Don't visualize. I don't do colors.
For me, to
so
concentrate on the.
No, if it works for you, then if it works for you, then if you want to concentrate on that chakra, by all means. If you want to visit.
Hello.
Yes.
You're freezing a lot, Jonathan.
Yeah.
No, you're freezing.
Internet connection unstable. Okay. So what I can do is I can switch it, because I have a backup. Let's see if we change the connection to another one, if that's any better. Is it getting any better? I'm just switching it now. So you go away for a bit and then hopefully come back.
Long time. So the other connection seems better.
No, I just said can't connect to this network for some reason. Okay,
Yeah.
so I just have to stick with the Wi-Fi. I've actually got one on my phone as well, but let's just persevere.
It's not too bad. It's not too long. It's okay. We
This
can
comes
deal
in
with
and
it.
out, yeah.
Don't stress. It's fine.
Okay. Just keep me in the loop as to what's happening. So there's a lot in that meditation. It's based on, there's some very ancient kind of techniques in there, and then I incorporated the forgiveness process, because in my view, meditation and forgiveness are the two most powerful modalities for transforming your mind and reaching enlightenment. So why not put them together? And if you're in a deep state, have you all done that meditation at some point?
Yeah.
So if you're in a deep state, you're like half an hour into it, and then you start meditating on the heart chakra. When you get there, you do the this 10-step forgiveness process. That's going to be a much deeper level of forgiveness than if you just went, oh, okay, I'll just go straight into it. It's a bit like warming up the body. You know, if you exercise, you've got to kind of warm up the body and prepare yourself to go deeper into the performance phase, I call it. It's the same thing. You've got to kind of get your mind in that nice, quiet, receptive state, and then some very deep stuff can actually start unwinding. And if you feel, I've had people doing it and they feel a pain in their heart. You know, you can feel that. You can feel emotion. You can feel pain. No, it's what's happening. Something's releasing, and that's good. So, you know, if you experience any of that, just go, okay, just carry on, breathe through it, and, you know, it will pass.
Yeah.
It's just something releasing, because it's, you know, it's working on quite deep levels of subconscious and emotions. And, you know, if anything does come up that, you know, is really hectic, by all means, just talk about it in the group. You're welcome to call me, because, you know, this kind of stuff can happen. If you're going into real transformation, it means you are going to release stuff. It's just inevitable, and that's not a comfortable process.
So when you release something, are you always going to experience something physical?
Maybe. There's no absolute rule. You can't say. Everyone experiences it differently. Very often people experience physical because emotions are powerful. You know, emotions are energy and motion, and so we feel that in our body, and there are often aspects of our body that are connected to certain emotions. So like you've got lower back pain, or, you know, what emotion is osteoporosis. You know, the idea of psychosomatic illnesses isn't the new one, that the mind actually is controlling it all. Because what is controlling it must be the mind, ultimately, and then that manifests itself in the body. So now you start going into the emotional layers and the deeper parts of your subconscious. You are likely to start feeling things in your body as well.
I don't mind telling you why. I know it all started with my son. 10 years back on him. I know it started with it.
Yeah.
I didn't have it before that.
So there's an emotional issue there, and now that manifests in a physical symptom. So hopefully, if you work through these meditations, you do this course, it might heal that. You know, in 6 weeks, you can actually accomplish a lot. People can have major breakthroughs if you stick with the process. It takes. You know, it was very interesting. In the first course that we did, there were 2 people who had really major breakthroughs. I'm sorry, one of them, Bali's not here, but she is doing the course, so hopefully she'll join tomorrow. They had some really major breakthroughs in the last week.
Can you tell us
Well, Bali had a kind of I see what the course is saying, that actually there's no real purpose in all of this, in all the suffering and in the world, and she really got it. And she was like, whoa, this is like, you know, you could see that's kind of an epiphany,
Moment.
an aha moment, where you just get it. You know, they talk about that in spiritual context, where suddenly, you know, you've worked and suddenly something just drops. One lesson she read just dropped for her. She really got something on a deeper level. And another chap by the name of Phil was in his 80s. And he's been studying the course for 27 years. It's like double the time with me. So I was under a little bit of pressure. I was like, okay. But, you know, he did the 6-week process and he participated fully. And on the last day, we did a holotropic breathing session to end on the Friday night. And then in the morning, he listened to this breathing, the track that I sent in, the music track. And he just kind of had a shift. And he let go of something that he'd been holding on to with his parents for his whole life. He said, I didn't realize it, but actually, it's really, I've been carrying this baggage around at a huge cost all my life. Those was what,
and
I've let it go.
Do you know what the outcome was as far as his family goes?
Well, his parents are long dead. I mean, he's in his 80s, so it was just his own.
Okay.
It was his own forgiveness that he was able to let
But
that
usually
go.
when you let go of, sorry, Jono, usually when you let go of stuff, the family dynamics change, usually.
Yeah, in his case, both his parents were dead, so it was really.
No, but I'm just saying, if they weren't dead, it's normally changed.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that, because that pertains to my son.
They do change because it's all connected. This is what the course is saying. If you change and you really forgive on a deeper level, then your relationship with that person you've forgiven has to change on some level. We can't. It's not rational. You can't really explain why, but it's because
we're one mind.
We're one mind, as you say, very well said. Yeah. We're one mind, and so on some level, that person sees that and connects with that, and so it has to change the relationship.
Look, perhaps he has changed, but in fact, I've got quite a surprise.
Hazel, all you got to do is focus. So here's my, and then we'll go into the meditation. Here's my tip for today. Just focus on your own experience, on your own work, because you can't change him. You can't make him get it.
I did a lot of Ho'oponopono, and I'm just wondering if that didn't help.
Maybe, but don't focus on, I'm doing this so that the other person will change.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I want to find.
I'm not saying that for 1 minute. I'm just saying the whole scenario.
That if the focus is on, okay, I'm letting this go to find peace of mind, and I'm trusting. Of course, talks about the Holy Spirit. I'm trusting that if I do this, things will get better in strange and mysterious and miraculous ways. I don't know how it's all going to work out, but that's not my job. That's the Holy Spirit's job. I just got to do my thing, and then be guided. So if I can stay in that place where I'm forgiving and I'm okay with it, and I can really let it go, then trust that whatever needs to happen will happen, and is kind of what happens generally. Life is not an exact science, as we know. There's no if you do that result, but generally things will be better with that person, with that relation. Sometimes that means you break away from it. Sometimes it's like, okay, that person is actually not good for you. They're toxic. They're on their own path. They're on and there's a separation.
Yes.
But yeah, because actually the family bonds are what the course calls special relationships.
Okay.
So we're born into those, and we're set up for that by birth, from birth. But in the one mind, none of that really exists. In the one mind, we're all one. The fact that he's your son doesn't make him any more special than the beggar on the corner, really.
Yeah.
If you're really going to look at it, the truth. It's just that in the special relationship, you obviously have that human element, and so there's a lot of learning that can happen there, because these things trigger you.
If it was Sunday, I didn't have much to do with, but we were so close.
But you see, there's the special relationship. Yeah, but there's the special relationship. You see, so you get very close. You get this close bond. Oh, he's my special son, and we've got this close bond. Of course, talks about this, and then it's very easy once you that intertwined for the ego to come in and go, right, now I'll cause a rift, I'll cause a separation, and that's really going to hurt because you've got this emotional bond. But why should that hurt more than just a kind of casual acquaintance? It's only your own attachment to that relationship that hurts, isn't it? And I know it's tough because we wired into this human form and into these relationships. But actually, if you really look at it, the Course is saying there's only truth, there's only peace and love and joy, and anything other than that, you don't really want that. So if the ego is using special relationships, which it does all the time, to trigger negative emotions, that's not really helping you. You might think of the ego will try and convince you that it's helping you, but why would you want to be miserable? Why would you want to suffer because of that relationship?
Especially
physically, mentally, emotionally. Why would you want to continue with that? When what the Course is saying is, look, you can let this go. Doesn't matter what the special relationship is, and you can find the peace that transcends it all, the peace that passes all understanding, as the Bible says. And if you can find that, then there's freedom there. You can go, okay, I don't actually have to be faced by this.
Do you find karma comes into this?
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering, obviously we must have been together in a previous life.
Well, maybe
family
not.
Is, and
but like I don't really like delving into past life stuff, because and the Course doesn't really even go there.
Dealing with now,
What's happening now is your lesson.
Yeah.
So you can have all these theories about we must have been in past lives together. Who knows? No one really knows. These people say, oh no, he was Tutankhamun in his previous life. How do they know? Really? Like seriously? You don't.
Yes, there's an Indian.
What you do know is right here, right now, what's happening. Okay, so here, right now, I'm feeling emotional. I've got back pain. Stuff's happening. Okay, that's my lesson now. If I learn my lesson now, I do my forgiveness really now, then I'm actually doing all that I can to unravel all of it. That starts to unravel, and he says you can't really comprehend this. In the Course, he says you can't really comprehend this in your state because you think temporal order, time and space is real. But when you start to do this, you start to clean all of that, going backwards, going forwards, because there is no time really.
Okay.
You start to correct your mind and you start to heal your mind, and all that karma is just cause and effect. It's happenings in time, thoughts and emotions that then get projected out and experienced. All of that starts to get undone. Doesn't matter what happened in the past. Because saying the past doesn't really happen. It's not really real. If you start obsessing about past lives, well, you just make the past real, don't you? And actually, because saying there is no real past. There's just the mind, and there's a belief in the past. And so we have these really strong beliefs, and then because of that, we've created time, and we've created this whole multi-dimensional matrix.
So it's got nothing to do with the guilt we feel from our separation from God.
Well, it's got everything to do with it. That's the root of all of it.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. So everything here, everything we see, time and space, is created as a result of that original separation. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. That's the introduction. I'm going to go through the ladder of separation, and really the fundamental kind of philosophy of what the Course is saying. Okay, so let's shall we do this little 10-step meditation. It's as I said, in the big one, in the 1 hour one. So you'll be able to do it every day if you do that. But I'll just take you through it, and then I'm going to explain the theory behind it, because this the course's theory is really embedded in a systematic way in this 10-step process. Okay, so close your eyes. Try and sit upright. I'm just going to mute everyone so we don't have any background interference, because that's going to disturb the meditation. Okay, so sitting upright, back straight, cup your hands, and connect with your breathing. So breathing in, breathing out. Notice how the stomach rises as you inhale. And how it falls as you exhale. And you might be able to hear we're outside, so there's some wind going on, rustling in the trees, sound of birds, crickets. That helps you just listen to those sounds and just go a little bit deeper into the breath. Breathing in, belly rises, breathing out. Belly falls. And just watch the breath. So put all your attention on the breath, the sensations around the breath. So noticing how the stomach pushes out as you inhale, gently sucks back in as you exhale. Notice the slight contraction in your tummy muscles as you do that. Notice the subtle flow of air in through your nose and out through your nose. Just allowing yourself to get a little bit more relaxed with each breath. Sinking a little bit deeper to this lovely, peaceful, calm, relaxed state of mind. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just breathe and relax. If any thoughts arise, just notice them and gently return your awareness to your breath. So you're just noticing your breath and the sensations around the breath. And with every breath, you're getting a little bit deeper. Just going a little bit deeper and deeper into this lovely, peaceful, calm, relaxed state of mind. So now I want you to run your awareness from the crown of your head. Just start there, just put your awareness on the crown of your head and notice how a lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling is flowing down from the crown of your head, through the back of your head. Through your face, relaxing your jaw. Just feel any tension in your jaw releasing. You can just move your jaw if you like. And you continue breathing, just continue this nice rhythmical breath. In and out. And with each breath, this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling is spreading through your body. So feel it spreading from your head down into your neck and your shoulders. Nice deep inhale. Imagine you breathing in relaxation into your neck and your shoulders. You hold the breath briefly. And just feel that slowly lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling. Just dissipating any tension in your neck and shoulders. You can shrug your shoulders, you can move your neck, that helps you. And exhale, just try and consciously release that tension. So interesting, in Greek, the word for exhale is the same as the word for forgiveness. So the idea of the breath can help you to let go of negative energy, stress, tension, anything you don't want. So just practice that as we go through this little body scan exercise. Anything that's tight or tense, as you breathe in this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling. And as you exhale, imagine it releasing. Should feel a little bit lighter after each breath. Let this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling flow down from your neck and your shoulders into your arms, through your upper arms, your triceps, and your biceps, and through your elbows into your forearms, and your wrists and your hands and your fingers. Your arms just hanging lumpily and heavily off your body. Feel the weight of them in your lap. And you're getting more and more relaxed with every breath. Sinking a little bit deeper. This lovely, peaceful, calm, relaxed state. Run your awareness back up from your fingertips through your hands and your wrists, through your forearms, into your elbows, your upper arms, your triceps, your biceps. Lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling just flowing through your arms, back up into your neck and shoulders. Take another deep breath there. Hold it briefly. Feel this relaxation spreading through your neck and shoulders. And exhale, letting it go. Just letting any tension there go. Shrug the neck and the shoulders. And from there, let this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling flow down into your upper back and your chest, down into your stomach and your lower back. So your whole upper body is completely lump, heavy, warm, and relaxed. Stomach is soft and warm. Just keep following the breath as I talk you through. Just keep watching how the breath is just happening. It's just breathing you. There's no effort involved. You just have to be the observer of your breath and watch. This amazing thing called breath just happens to you, for you, through you. No conscious effort. And that's kind of what spirit is. It's just happening for you. It's always there. We just have to let go of our resistance to it and allow it to come in. That's why the breath is so powerful, because you're starting to allow that awareness in. So let this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling flow down from your lower back to your lower stomach, to your buttocks, down into your legs, so your upper thighs, back of your thighs, down through your knees, into your shins, your calves, down through your ankles, into your feet and your toes. So your legs are completely lump, heavy, warm, and relaxed. Just feel the weight of them pressing into the ground. And now run your awareness all the way back up your body, from the tips of your toes. Let this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling flow through your feet, soles of your feet, into your ankles. At the same time, imagine a light now. If you visualize well, just bring a light into this. So a golden or a white light, just flowing through every cell and every muscle in your body. just enhancing the sense of relaxation. And a lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling is the feeling, and the light is the visual aspect. It's the same thing, just different aspects of the same thing. So notice how this light, how this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling flows up through your ankles, into your shins and your calves, into your knees, through your thighs. Imagine this golden or white light filling your whole body. So every cell and every muscle is filled with its lovely golden or white healing light. This lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling. Just getting deeper and deeper with every breath. Deeper into this lovely, peaceful, calm, relaxed state. So let this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling flow up through your buttocks, through your groin, through your lower back, your stomach, up into your chest, your middle back, your upper back. Imagine this light spreading, getting brighter and more intense with every breath. This lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed feeling. Spreading throughout your chest and your heart, opening your heart. So you can touch that spot, your heart chakra, in the center of your chest, with a cavity in your chest. Cavity in your breastbone, just touch that spot lightly if you like. Now this lovely lump, heavy, warm, relaxed state, this higher awareness, this expansive light. I want you to bring to mind a particular situation, usually involving a person or people. It might have been irritating you, annoying you, frustrating you, making you angry, making you resentful. Any negative emotion will do. So anything that's triggering a negative emotion. Just bring that to mind. Become aware of how that feels. So what does that feeling feel like? Thoughts always have a feeling aspect. So there's a thought about the situation, and then what do you feel immediately afterwards? So just tune into that. Just bring this awareness into that feeling and notice it, but without really going fully into it. So the feeling isn't really you, you're just noticing what it feels like. Another part of your mind, it's higher awareness that we've gone into. It's able to just observe this. Okay, I can see that there's a tightness. Notice how that feels in your body as well. So it might be a tightness, a contraction, maybe even a nausea. Just notice how, when you think about this, how that feels physically and emotionally. Feel into it. And now, step 3 of the process is to just remind yourself that these thoughts and these emotions that are negative are illusions. They are unreal. Of course calls these things unreal. They are hallucinations of the ego. There's a part of your mind that likes to think these thoughts, all these emotions, even though they cause you pain and suffering. Part of you that's addicted to them. But by just recognizing the truth about them, that they are not true, they are not real, means that they're not really there. You start the process of being able to free your mind from them. It's as simple and as difficult as that. If you don't fully get this step, it doesn't matter. This is a lifetime practice to really understand the illusion and be able to let it go is the process. So don't worry about it. Just think the thought and then move on to the next step, which is to remind yourself that it's a projection. The projection means that we have gone out of our mind. Instead of being within our mind and happy and safe and peace and calm in our mind, where we truly are at home in the one mind, which of course called God, we project out of that. We mentally, psychologically, and emotionally separate from that. And we project that outwards. We project these thoughts of separation. So that's anything that's negative: fear, guilt, anger, frustration, resentment, rage. Whatever you felt, that is a projection. So you've projected it outwards. And those projections now come back and they show up in our dream, in this physical form. They show up in these situations that we encounter with other people and things. And those things come back, and what they try and do is they try and trigger those thoughts and feelings within us. So we project them out, we forget that we've done that, and then they come back full circle like a boomerang. They come to torment us, and then we think that it's something or someone outside of us that's doing it to us, and then we blame the external person or situation. But actually, it's really just our own fear, our own guilt, our own resentment, our own negative emotions being projected out. And because it's all connected, it's one mind, that starts to show up in our reality. Someone then reflects that back to us, shows us, okay, well, you must be angry because I'm now giving you a reason to be angry. And then that triggers our anger. That's a boomerang effect. Just by doing a simple exercise like this, by starting to see how this process works, you naturally start to undo it. So when you can see it, you go, okay, I see what's really going on. It's actually not really out there. It's not really out there. It's in my mind. It's always been in my mind. I thought I projected it outwards to try and get rid of it, but actually it's coming back via this person or situation. And now I'm experiencing it again because I can't really get rid of it by projecting it outwards. I can only get rid of it by letting it go, which is what we're going to do now. So have some compassion for yourself, because it's a difficult process, right? We've put ourselves in an impossible situation, as Jesus says in the Course. It's a very difficult illusion and reality that we created, where all this stuff's happening. It's all happening unconsciously, happening on a level of the mind that we're not even aware of. And so we've set ourselves up for a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of disappointment, and all these negative emotions. Because on some level we want to experience them. The ego wants to experience it. And the Course is saying you don't need to experience them, you can make another choice. So have compassion for yourself, because this isn't an easy process, and it's a difficult choice to make. No one teaches you how to do this. In fact, quite the opposite. You're conditioned from a young age to believe in the world and to get attached to it, and not to let go and to get upset. So this is a process. So just be gentle with yourself now and over the next 6 weeks. And then step 6 is just to really feel. So we did a little dip into it earlier in step 2. Now I just want you to really go into this feeling, this emotion. And so when you're able to feel something fully, then you're able to release it. So go into it fully. Okay, so what does this really feel like? Go into it for a minute or so. So feel the anger, feel the resentment, feel the rage if it's rage. Just feel that, and feel what it's just an emotion. It's just a feeling. It's going on inside of you. Just sit with that for a minute. Just notice what it feels like. And notice how your body feels. Contraction in your body, tightness in your stomach, nausea. Maybe you're clenching your teeth and you're clenching your fist. Just notice all of that. And for another 30 seconds, just give yourself permission to feel it fully, whatever it is. Just feel it fully. Yeah? Just really go into it. Go, okay. So I'm feeling this fully. I'm going into this. I'm not denying it. I'm wanting to experience it fully so that you can make a choice and let it go. That's step 7. So there's a part of your mind that knows this isn't really real. You've made it up. You've created it to convince yourself that you're separate, to convince the ego that these emotions are justified, that pain and suffering are real. This is what you deserve. You'll never be happy. Nothing ever works, and so on. All these false beliefs and the emotions that go with them. So just notice that. And be willing to let it go. Just make a choice. Because that's really all it is. Say, okay, I can see all this. I can see what it's doing. I don't want it. It's not making me happy. There's no value in it at all. And so right now I'm willing to let this feeling and the thoughts go permanently. I'm willing to let them go forever. So to help you do that, breathe in. Nice deep inhale into your heart. So imagine that you're breathing this lovely golden or white light into your heart center. Hold the breath briefly. Imagine that light intensify. And you should notice that in the presence of the light, some of this negativity, some of this negative feeling starting to dissipate, just releasing. Because in the presence of the light, darkness has to go. Two are mutually exclusive, cannot exist together. And so now, as you exhale, out your mouth, nice deep full exhale. Just feel that energy releasing. Just feel that it's going. It's releasing from your body, from your mind, from your subconscious. That mental and emotional contraction, pain, whatever you want to call it, and the physical feelings around it. So any tension in your body, tightness, you're releasing that too. Just letting it go with the breath. So do this a couple more times to help you. Breathe in. Nice deep inhale into the heart. So imagine this golden or white light filling up your whole heart, spreading out from your heart center throughout your chest into your neck and your shoulder, into your head, surrounding your whole head, your whole upper body is filled with this lovely golden or white light. And then hold it, intensify the light. Imagine it getting brighter, more intense, higher vibration, more intense feeling. Go into the feeling of if you don't see the light. Just feel like an intense, powerful feeling filling you up from the heart center, spreading out from there. And now as you exhale again, deep exhale through the mouth. Just letting go of any remaining darkness. You'll know what that feels like. It's a contraction in your mind. It's like sandpaper grating on your consciousness and any physical feelings around that. Just let that go. Then you can visualize a dark energy, a mucky kind of gray or black or brown energy, whatever comes to mind, that's leaving you. It's going, gone. So one last deep inhale breath. Take the fullest, deepest breath of today. Breathe in. Filling your whole body up. Imagine the light filling up every cell and every muscle of your body. So it's radiating out from that spot in your heart. Into your head, to the crown of your head, all the way back down to the tips of your toes, through your legs into your toes. And that light is surrounding you in a golden or white aura. And in that light, no darkness is possible, so this feeling is completely gone. There's no negativity, there's no contraction left. There's only the light and there's only the love. The love is the feeling and the light is the seeing aspect of the same thing, which we can call oneness or God or beingness or truth or whatever you want, love, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. One. Just deeply connect with that. Now as you exhale, deep exhales through your mouth. Imagine just sharing that light, sharing that love with everyone in your house. So all your loved ones and people maybe you're having an issue with, especially this particular person or people involved in this situation. Just imagine sharing that, spreading it out, it's radiating out, and going throughout the town or the city you're in, through the whole province, the whole country, the whole continent, the whole world, and out into the galaxy, the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe. Because there's no limit to this. It's just an idea. You're accessing another dimension. So when you go there and you're in that light is everywhere. It always was there. It's just you connecting with something that's always been there. So it's the beginning of time. It's always been there. It's just in another dimension, which we've tonight. And I'll bring that light back. So you've expanded it out, got into this really expansive light feeling, and now you bring it back. Imagine it contracting back into your body and into your heart center. Just feel it burning, pulsing. So now, just remind yourself that it's all perfect in its imperfection. So situation and this personal people are there to trigger these negative thoughts and feelings. And in the process of doing that and letting them go, you're getting closer to your true self, to God. And that's the whole purpose. Right? That's the only real purpose of the illusion, is that through all these projections and all these illusions, you start to experience these negative emotions, and you start to be able to become aware of them and make the choice to let them go, which is what you've just done. So it's actually perfect in its imperfection. In fact, it's the only way out. It's the only way you can ever heal your mind. So the very same illusion and projection that the ego is created to enslave you becomes the mechanism of its undoing if you listen to the Holy Spirit, which you've just done. So give thanks for this process. Give thanks to the personal people involved, because they're helping you. Although that doesn't seem like it on the level of form. They're helping you to release these negative thoughts and emotions, which are all that the ego is made up of, and to free your mind forever from all negativity. Without someone as the catalyst, without someone to trigger these thoughts and emotions, they remain buried in your subconscious, and you can't actually become aware of them and let them go. So they are playing a part. They're playing a very valuable part in your life, even if it hurts temporarily. That hurt is designed to help you to become aware of what's really hurting you, which is your own mind, and let that part of your mind go. Of course, calls that part your ego. And if you can really feel grateful to the person or people involved and for the whole situation, then you know you're forgiven. If you're not quite there yet, and there's still a little bit of contraction, maybe a resentment, maybe you just can't, I just can't let yourself go there, because a part of your mind doesn't want to let go completely. Just notice that. Okay, I know I need to do this process again. Right? You can sometimes you have to work through situations of issues many times in order to really let go. So in your next meditation, you can work with the same issue. The next meditation you do tomorrow morning, when you do the 10-step letting go process, just work with the same issue and keep working with it until you do feel that release, and you can really feel gratitude. When you feel grateful to the person who's hurt you the most, that is true forgiveness. And Debbie kindly sent a video. I'll share it this afternoon with everyone on just what true forgiveness really means. It's being able to actually be grateful to the person who hurt you the most. As hard as that is to do from one level, from one aspect of our mind, it's the most liberating thing to do for our spirit. And then finally, step 10 is say all is forgiven and released. All is forgiven and released completely. I've forgiven this person or people. All is forgiven and released, and we are one. Because all that's happening is through unforgiveness, through holding on to this, you maintain the illusion of separation. So you think you're separate from them, which means you still have a separate identity, a name and form and all that stuff which the ego's created. And that keeps you away from perfect oneness, which is your true awareness, which is the truth. That's what will set you free. And so the purpose of forgiveness is to restore your mind to that place of perfect oneness. So just connect with that. Just a couple more deep inhales and exhales. Just deeply connect with this feeling of perfect peace, perfect oneness, in which all things are healed, all things are released. You feel that lightness, that peace, that freedom. Don't really have to label it, just experience it. The more you connect to it, the more you experience it, the more that will start to become your base state, default state. And the more the ego's incursions on this, covering over this, start to become intolerable, the more you want to let go of this. Because this is what you really want. You want this peace. You want this open, light, expansive, free, loving, peaceful, happy, joyful feeling. Whatever you want to label it, doesn't matter. Just feel it. A couple more deep breaths. Deeply connect with it. And through your breath, you can anchor this. So for the rest of the session in the afternoon and on into the evening, you can stay connected to this feeling through your breath. Just by keeping some awareness in the breath, you maintain some of this feeling. It'll be possible to stay there completely because you're going to go on and operate in the world. But you can just keep this nice, happy, open, expansive feeling in your heart for the rest of the session. It's going to help you to absorb this information that we share. And maybe just set an intention or give the session to the Holy Spirit. Say, okay, so whatever I need to learn from this, just show me. I'm open, I'm free, I'm light, I'm aware. I've just released the block, and so I'm open to receive whatever there is for me to receive. One more deep inhale breath. Just reconnecting with your body, noticing how your body's feeling. On the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So reconnecting with the body, weight of the body pressing into the chair. Feel your hands on your lap. 2, just noticing again your senses. So what are you hearing? What are you feeling, touching? Maybe there's a subtle taste or smell going on for you. Just notice all of that. Bring yourself back into body awareness. But at the same time, there's still a connection with this deeper awareness, this inner sanctum, this place of peace and stillness you've connected with. So you're going to keep that for the rest of the session. And 3, gently open your eyes. Just look around. We'll say 30 seconds, just noticing maybe how your perception's different. So you feel a little bit lighter, a little bit clearer, freer than 20 minutes ago. Try not to judge or label or interpret anything. Just notice it. It's a very clear, light, aware state where there's not a lot of thinking. You don't have to think. You can just be. Just noticing. There's no judgment. This is the enlightened state that the Course is trying to take us into, where the mind is not chattering away. We're just able to be at rest. We notice everything. There's no judgment. There's no labeling. There's no interpretation. And there's no movement away from this underlying peace. So try and stay connected to that through the breath. I'm just going to unmute you guys. Get some feedback on that. You still with me? You haven't dropped off to sleep?
Yeah.
Great.
I'm still here.
Great. How was that?
Yeah.
Enjoy that?
Very nice. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so that process you can do every day. It's embedded into the guided letting go meditation, and you can go and you can work with that same issue. You can work with whatever issue. So once a day, you're doing a really deep meditation and forgiveness. That if you do that for 6 weeks, it's gonna create some change. I can guarantee it. Even a few days, you'll start to notice if you do it regularly. So it's really all about just being disciplined and having the discipline to get up earlier and just practice it. My experience doing it first thing in the morning is best, because if you wait, and then so often the day just goes and you don't find that hour any other time in the day, do you? Even though Hazel's retired and she's laughing, so if you're working, forget it. If the day just goes and then evening comes and so ideally get up when you need to get up so you can fit in that hour. I'm going to send you a 40-minute version, and I'm not going to do it until next week, because I know the temptation is if I give it to you, you'll use it. Ideally, I'd like you to do the 1 hour. Really? Okay. Yeah. And, okay. So feel free to, if anything comes up, just message me, or ideally post the comments. If you're okay with other people seeing it, not too close. Post your comments in the Facebook group, because that's the forum where a lot of interaction and learning can start happening. People can go and see those comments. They can comment as well. There are going to be videos. I'll post the video of the session on there. I'll also post the link to the audio, so you can actually listen to this in your car, on your phone, wherever, and that can be very helpful. Are you? I think, Hazel, you're not on Facebook, are you? Okay, so join the Facebook group. You need to join Facebook.
Okay.
Sign up. Debbie, I think I invited you yesterday. So
Yes, I think I've connected.
great. So then you should be in the group. Lebo, you're already in the group. Hopefully we can get everyone else who's not in the next few days. So yeah, just feel free to post any comments on the session, any questions in there, and then we can discuss them. They arise. Okay, so let's go into I'm just going to see if I can share my screen with you. The talk for today, some introduction. There we go. Okay, so let me share that. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah. Not yet.
No, it's black. Oh, there we
Okay.
go.
There we go. See it. Can you read that? Is it big enough?
No, fine.
You can read that. Okay. So I'm just going to talk to that diagram, which somewhat dramatically is called the descent into hell. Fortunately, it's also the way out. But in order to find the way out, we need to know how we got in there in the first place. So this is a high-level overview of the Course's teachings and philosophy, which I think will be very helpful when you're starting this, because if you've got the kind of big picture to start with, then you're reading, passages and the text in the workbook, and it all starts to, you start to see how it fits within this philosophy and this thought system, because that's really what it is. This is a way of thinking and a way of perceiving the world, and that's what the Course is trying to train us to do. So I'll start at the beginning, which is oneness or God or love, or you call that whatever you want, all beingness, infinity, eternity, you know, if you want to use religious terms, Allah, the Tao, they call it in China, Taoism. Doesn't really matter what you call it. In fact, don't get hung up on the words, because that then starts to become a mechanism of separation for the ego. It's just a feeling. It's and you access that feeling. Right? That's just now. You went into that feeling. I hope that you experienced some of that. But there's an expansive, light kind of awareness. There's not a lot going on in the mind, and so you're not really in separation. Then you're in that oneness. You're merging into it. And the Course is saying, and you know, it's just echoing what really every great spiritual teaching has said throughout time, that actually that's true reality. So this reality, the ground of being, it's always there, it's always been there. Right? It's our true awareness. It's where we really want to be. But what happened, what seemed to happen a very, very long time ago. Okay? So this has been going on for a very long time. As far as we know, something like 16 billion years, but I suspect probably even longer, because 16 billion years is the age of this universe, but this might be one of many universes, or this might be, we don't even know, right? Doesn't really matter, because actually the Course is saying is go beyond all of that. You don't have to look at the manifestations, but look at the root cause. And the root cause of what we call this reality and this universe experience we're having here is a simple idea. Okay, the Course calls it a tiny, mad idea of separation. Okay, the thought of separation. At some point, we don't know when, but the mind, the one mind, part of that mind, suddenly said, "Oh, what if I'm not one? What if I'm not all love? Because I'm kind of, maybe that would give me something different experience, something more interesting, something more desirable." And this all evolved from that first little idea. So it just started with an idea. Well, what if I'm not one? And that was the beginning of what the Course calls the ego, right? Ego stands for edging God out, okay? Because that thought edges oneness out. That thought denies oneness, okay? And that has also been called other things. It's been called the universal mind. In the Gnostic tradition, it's called the universal mind. Christianity and Islam call it Satan, which just means the deceiver, the illusion. So that's a thought that's not true, right? If only perfect oneness is true, then anything else must be untrue. Kind of logical, but that logic has got very obscured because we're so far down the track, as I'll show you, that we've forgotten that actually it's a simple split in the mind. Okay, so now we have this thought of something else going on. Thought of separation, a thought of something else, another thing, another identity, right? And that then gives birth to this idea of an individual self. Individuality, if you notice, is made up of 3 parts. We go in, first syllable, to division. Div is the root of division, so separation. And duality means not one but two. Okay, so there's quite a lot in these words. Individuality means we've gone in to a thought of separation, and two. Now there's 2 things going on in our mind, not one thing. And I put in brackets a separate identity named, because now we start to name this thing. Okay, so we created a false idea of something other than oneness, and we start to give it a name. And we go, that is whatever. And and this is, you going, Hazel? No, it's moving. That is what we've done, as you'll see, as this thing develops. You'll see how we go down the track and we start to make something. We start to make this tiny mad idea, this untrue idea, we start to make it real in our minds. So individuality is the first split, and the thought, the individuality is the second split. Taking it just another level down this ladder of separation. We now start to believe in an individual self. Now at this stage, there's no, this hasn't fragmented into multiple individual selves. There's only one individual self. Okay, so there's now the ego, and there's God, or oneness, which is seemingly the opposite. So that's the super ego. That's the core of the ego that has set itself up in opposition to oneness or love. And that individuality brings about this idea of sin. Okay? So sin is just the idea that we have actually done the most awful thing. So although the ego on one level is like, oh, this is cool, I can have my own identity and I can have a different experience from oneness. And that's kind of what attracted to us. That's the desire aspect of the ego. There's also this dreadful feeling, this guilt that comes with that. Because in order to do this, we have to, in our minds, have destroyed oneness or God or love. Okay? Because you cannot have something else that totally contradicts oneness without thinking that you've destroyed that you've obliterated it in your mind. Which sounds insane, and it is insane, but that's what's going on in this ego mind. It's believing in its own false creation, its own miscreation. So now it's got this thought of sin, that it's done this terrible thing of destroying perfect oneness or God or love, and this awful guilt at doing it. The sense that I've done this absolutely heinous, most terrible thing. This is an unforgivable crime. And I'm going to be punished for this sin. And so here's the birth of really all the evils of the world, right? Guilt and sin, idea of punishment. This is at the root of the ego. This is the foundation of the ego that underlies its sense of an individual identity. Do you see? This is a very, very important concept to get. Guilt and sin are at the foundation. It doesn't matter what you do within that individual identity. As long as you believe in it, you cannot escape the underlying guilt and sin, because underlying that identity is the thought that you've destroyed God, you've destroyed oneness, you've destroyed love, whatever you want to call it. Because it's the opposite, right? There can be no separation in perfect oneness. If you think you've separated from it, you must have destroyed it, and then guilt is the natural consequence. Which is why the ego fundamentally doesn't work, and it never will work. Because if its underpinning, its foundation is guilt and sin, then it can only ever create fear and punishment and a lot of suffering. Can you see that? And it's actually as simple as that. But we've done this for so many lifetimes and so many millions, billions of years. This thought is really deeply entrenched in every human being's psyche, and not just human beings, in the psyche of every creature that lives on this planet. We've all got that guilt and that sin at some level, at a deeper level. We're just not aware of it, and we try and mask it, we try and cover it over. So what the Course is saying is, by going into this and really looking at this and really realizing what it is, we can dispel it. We can start to go, this is nonsense. It's not a true idea. None of it's true. From the moment we thought of separation, we went into untruth. And we started believing in untruth. And so everything that comes from that must be untrue. It must be a lie. Which is why we can let it go. If it were true, we couldn't let it go. But it is a fact, and you've just experienced that you can let these things go. You're not permanently in guilt and sin. You don't always experience those. There are other emotions like love and peace and joy that you can experience, and we all have. So which is real? Because they contradict each other. Both cannot be real. Debbie's raised her hand. Yeah, Debbie, you got a question?
Thank you. No, I just wanted to say what I came to understand, and I might be wrong, Jonathan, is that we also choose every minute or every second of every day to choose for the ego.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't just, so instead of choosing for God, we choose for the ego all the time. It's as you said, it's ingrained in us. So we have a choice in the moment to say, am I going with the ego, or am I going with God or with the divine or whatever?
Yeah, and what we've done is at every level, so that is absolutely correct. Thank you for bringing that up. At every level, once we make a split and we go down this ladder, there's kind of an amnesia that comes over the mind. So once we go into guilt, we've forgotten that we made a choice to be an individual self. We just forget that. We blank that and erase it. So now we get stuck at the lower level. We get stuck in guilt and sin. And then the nightmare continues, because once you start going down this track and you start following the ego's guidance, it leads you into a very dark place, which calls hell. And then we don't even know. Once we get down to the bottom of the ladder, which I'll get to soon, we don't even know that we have a choice anymore. We've forgotten that there was once a choice. We once chose this, and therefore we can unchoose it. We can make another choice. We get so immersed in this thought system and in the world that's created as a result of it that we forget that there really is a choice. And so our task is to remind ourselves, there is actually a choice, and there's always a choice, because that fundamental split is still in our minds, and that's played out all the time in this world. We're now at guilt and sin, this terrible original sin, right? So the Bible talks about original sin. This is the original sin of man. The original sin of separating from God, of apparently destroying oneness or God or love. Okay? The ridiculous thing is you can't actually do that, right? You can't destroy love. It's impossible, but the ego thinks that it can. And this is the delusion of it. And that's why it's an illusion.
Why does Jesus say you must trust in me because there's no such thing as sin?
There isn't really, because it's a delusion. It's not a true thought. It's not real. It's a false idea, right? We've made it real, and if we want to keep believing in it, our minds can do that. But it has no ultimate reality, right? In perfect oneness, sin cannot exist, because sin is a manifestation of separation, which doesn't exist in perfect oneness. Can you see that? So if only God is real, if only oneness is real, then sin must be unreal. And so this is where the Course is coming from, saying, look, there's reality and there's unreality. You can't make both of them real in your mind. That's what you've tried to do, and it hasn't worked, clearly. How can you have two contradictory ideas in your mind at the same time and expect to be sane? Debbie, you got a comment?
Sorry, just
No, don't.
I looked up sin somewhere, and it said to miss the point.
Yes. In Greek, apparently, so a lot of these ancient languages have a lot of deeper meaning. Sin in Greek means to miss the mark.
Yeah.
So you've missed the mark. You've missed you've missed the point of existence, which you have completely. If you're in sin and guilt, you've missed the point of existence, which is love. And sin and guilt deny love. And they are the foundation of the ego. They have then some pretty nasty consequences, right? If you believe in sin and guilt, and you believe that you've really destroyed oneness, then you will have a false expectation of punishment that appears to be real. And you will think that God himself will punish you. So you set up a false idea of God, right? Concept of a fearful, wrathful, separate, vengeful God, right? We see this very clearly in the Old Testament of the Bible. they have this idea of this vengeful, wrathful God, mostly in the Old Testament. And that was coming out of their own sense of sin and sense of, you know, not being worthy and unrighteous. And they created a God in that image, which wasn't not true. It's a false idol. It's a mental image. It's a God of stone. You know, it's terrible apparently, but actually, as Jesus says in the Course, an idol, a false idol. We made it up. It's an idea only.
And of course, the Bible's been translated from the
Yes. Well, it was originally written in Hebrew, but so you can start to very clearly see in a lot of these religions and so on how these ideas come in and create a false version of God. I mean, I remember reading the Old Testament, going, "This is horrific. This isn't a loving God. This is a maniac. This is a psychopath." But that God was just created by the people who didn't know better, and that was their state of mind, state of consciousness. And so that's the God they created and they worshipped because they didn't know any better. And Jesus came along and said, "No, look, this is all rubbish. You guys are believing in what's false." And not everyone obviously liked that message, because these ideas are deeply entrenched in the human psyche. Right? These underlie our human identity. They underlie all the constructs we have in our society. It's the reason why the world doesn't really work. The reason why there's so much pain and suffering and attack. It goes on at every level. Because it's guilt being projected out. You've got people fearing punishment. And then on a metaphysical level, what we did, this all happened in the mind before the universe appeared. This all happened in the mind. And then the intensity of these thoughts and emotions was so great that it caused us to literally go out of our minds. And it caused us to project this guilt and this fear outwards. Right? So our minds are that powerful that they then created something that was apparently outside of the mind. And that we call the physical universe. Right? That was spewed out. This massive projection of thought and intense emotion. And that is what created the universe. The cosmologists talk about the Big Bang. There was a single moment when this universe came into being, but they cannot explain why that happened. They can only say, okay, well, this happened, and as a result, we've got this whole universe thing going on. But they cannot explain why it happened, because explaining why it happened takes them beyond science. It takes you into the domain of philosophy. And then their science becomes useless. They can only explain, the science of what happened after this. The Course goes to the philosophical level and says, okay, explain why it happened. Because that's the real question. Why did this happen? It happened because we couldn't handle this amount of guilt and sin and fear in our own minds. And so we had to somehow get rid of it. And instead of just letting it go and going, look, this is all just a nonsense idea in the first place, let's just go back to oneness, that would have been the sensible thing to do. The ego had another plan. The ego's plan was to create this massive projection outwards and say, right, if you follow me, I will take you away, apparently, from this guilt and this sin and this fear, and I will take you into a place where God cannot get you. Because now remember, we've got this dreadful fear of being killed by God. I will take you into a place where God can't come in. This will be a place where we can hang out together, and I'll be in charge, and I'll look after you, and I'll make you safe. And so we kind of believe that. We go, all right, I'll follow you then. And off we go, and we go into this, we go out of our minds, literally, and we go into the physical universe. And in order to be in the physical universe, we have to have a form to interact in the physical universe. And so the ego makes all these forms. Incarnation, it's called, right? Separate forms of matter. Matter is just energy, so it's really just this projected thought spewed out there. And now the mind thinks that it's attached to a body, whether it's a human body or an animal body or a plant. It doesn't really matter. It's the mind has got itself into the idea that it's in now a separate form, and that it's separated from oneness, And on one level, that there's a protection there because we think that God's going to come in and kill us. And so we now separate ourselves from that. We've gone into a place where God can't get us. But the problem is that the guilt and the sin and the fear follows us, right? So if those are the thoughts that gave birth to this whole illusion, then those keep showing up in this what the Course calls dream. And we see that all over the place, don't we? You just have to watch the news or read a newspaper, and you see these things all the time. These ideas, don't you? These guilt and sin and fear. It seems to be a very fearful world. It seems to be a world in which there's the continuous threat. It seems to be a world in where at any moment you could die. Someone can die, right? People die every day. Because what gave birth to the world was the thought of death. It was the thought, that God can die, that oneness can be done away with. And so that becomes entrenched in the dream. And it's so deeply entrenched that you can't fix it. That's really what the Course is saying, right? You can't fix the dream. You'll never fix the world, and you'll never fix the universe, because they are based on what is a fundamentally a false idea. So to continue our story of is this making sense to you, by the way?
Mm.
Okay. If you have any questions, just raise your hand or just speak because you're unmuted. So now that we've created this, the ego's miscreated. Oh, what's that?
What was that?
I don't know. Is that a phone or something? Sounds like a phone.
Yeah, mine. I'm on the phone, so it just keeps
Oh, I see.
messages,
Right.
but I'm not checking.
Yeah, sure.
We'll forgive you, Lebo.
Yes. So we have all this fragmentation going on, and then over billions of years, evolution supposedly happens in time. You get these increasingly complex and sophisticated separate forms of life whose minds have identified with their forms. Okay, that includes us. We're just another form of life on this planet. We think we're it, but actually there's millions, billions of others that are all living out their lives in these separate bodies, and their lives are finite in form. You're born. We live our lives for a certain lifespan. Some things only have a couple of days on this planet. Others, like us, we have 80 years, 90 years. But we live out our lives in form, and then we die. And that's the program. That's how it works. Because in the ego's thought system, nothing can last. There's no permanence, right? If we denied oneness, which is eternal and infinite, then the opposite must be impermanent. Must be perishable, and that's the reality we've created in this world, in this universe. Things that perish. There's no permanence. Everything's always changing and evolving, which creates a lot of fear in our minds because we can't rely on anything. Right? We know at some point that we're going to die, and we know that nothing that we try to create is going to last. It's always going to change, and we struggle to deal with that because the part of our mind, the part that still knows that oneness is true, of course calls that the Holy Spirit, recognizes that this whole thing is not true. That none of this is really true. And that's the awareness that we have to go into in order to heal our minds. But the ego strategy is different, right? So now we've got ourselves really into the dwang, as they say. We're not in a particularly good place. We're separated from God. We're in a separate human form. In our case, we're a separate form, where we're guaranteed to have this finite life and we're guaranteed to die. Not a very happy state to be in. But the ego continues with this dream and says, okay, well, I'll create a solution for these apparent problems you've created. So if you're feeling guilty and you're feeling fearful, I'm going to create these mechanisms of accusation and blame and complaint and attack to help you feel a bit better in your dream. Okay, so now these things keep showing up. You're gonna keep feeling fearful, and you're gonna keep feeling like you're under threat because that's the basis of the ego. And now the ego is going to tell you that in order to get rid of these things, you need to project them outwards. Okay? So remember, its fundamental basis is projection. So go out of your mind. So that's what it does. It wants you to go out of your mind instead of going within and saying, hang on, let me look within. It's saying, no, I'm going to accuse and I'm going to blame and I'm going to complain and I'm going to attack other things, other humans, other forms. Doesn't matter what it is. It might be the dog, it might be your plant, it might be, you know, the politician you love to hate. It doesn't really matter. It's a psychological mechanism underlying it that you've got to pay attention to. And so you project this subconscious guilt at the separation to try and get rid of it, right? And that guilt projected outwards becomes an attack. And that's why there's so much attack in this world. Because we feel psychologically better when we do that temporarily, right? We attack someone else. We've offloaded some of that aggression and some of that guilt because now they're to blame. So I'm not the one to blame. They're the one to blame.
Does that pertain especially to terrorists?
Yeah, anyone who's doing this. You know,
So I think
you want to attack anyone or anything else. What you're doing is you're saying, I'm not the guilty one. This person is the guilty one, and I'm going to blame them, and that's going to make me feel better. Because now God is going to go and get them and not me. And I'm kind of off the hook.
They give you 70 versions when you get to heaven.
And I feel a little bit of temporary relief. Okay, but that relief is only temporary. Because if we keep doing that, we keep accusing and blaming, complaining and attacking. All it does is it strengthens the thought system of guilt. Right? If I keep giving guilt in the form of blame and attack to someone else, then what am I doing? I'm saying guilt is real. And I'm fueling that, making it stronger. So far from escaping it, I'm actually getting deeper into it. It's becoming more entrenched in my mind. And I keep having to do that, right? I keep having to project and attack in order to try and make myself feel better. But it's not going to work because it's just going to make the guilt worse. That's going to make the anger worse. That's going to make the fear worse. And I got caught in a very destructive and negative spiral. But ultimately, if I keep doing that, take me to death, right? If I keep attacking other people and things, they're going to attack me back, and someone might kill me, or that manifests in our bodies as self-attack. So then we start to get sick, and our physical form starts to decay and eventually die. And then the ego's fundamental wish, which is death, seemingly becomes a reality, right? Because we die in physical form. It's all a bit depressing, but you have to really look at this, right? You have to really look at how in order to get out of it. So that's why we're doing this, to start the course, to understand how we got where we are. Once you understand how you got into the position you're in, you can then find the way out. But if you don't understand how you got there, then you're trapped. There's no way out. So now we have all this guilt and this fear of attack and this projection of guilt in the form of accusation, blame, and counterattack going on, and our life is not very happy. There's no happiness in that. We're going to be in separation. We're going to be in fear. All these negative emotions are going to dominate our minds and our bodies. And we start to become, you said it yesterday, David, we start to become addicted to the chemicals that go with these emotions. So it's happening on a mind level, but now because we're in physical form, all of this stuff plays out in our bodies as well. And those emotions become addictive. It's quite hard to undo them because we're so far down the track. And now the final kind of identity of the ego wants to express is that we believe that we are victims of an unfair world and we're living a helpless, innovated little life. That's an acronym for hell. Hell's an acronym for that. Helpless, innovated. Innovated means weakened, okay, disempowered. Life, little life. So we're in these little bodies, we're living these lives, we have these little goals and ideas and dreams, and we think that this is going to work. It's going to if we do these things, it's going to somehow make us feel better, and maybe give some meaning to this life. but we're still stuck in limitation and suffering, and eventually our bodies are going to die. That's kind of guaranteed. So it's not a particularly nice, happy identity or reality when you really look at it. And you have to be prepared to really look at it. That's what the Course is saying. If you're not prepared to really expose the ego's thought system and bring it to the light of awareness, you can never get out of it, because these things will continue in your mind. You continue to believe in the false ideas, and you'll continue to follow these dysfunctional strategies that don't really work, like accusation and blame and complaint and attack. And you'll try and make it work. And we try, and humanity has been trying for a very, very long time to make the system of the ego work. And it just doesn't work. It will never work, the Course is saying, because it's not true. It's not ultimately true. It's not who you really are. So it will never work. So forget the whole thing. Forget the whole thing and go back to oneness. That's really the solution. Easier said than done, of course, when you're down at the bottom of the ladder, believing that you're a victim. That's kind of the lowest identity that the ego can believe in and can create for you, that you're a victim of an unfair world. You're living in this helpless little body. You are going to die. There's all this limitation, this fear, this suffering that's going on, and you are very, very seemingly very far removed from oneness or love. But you're not really, because actually that's just an idea, and it's just a state of mind. So it's always been there. It's always in your mind. The potential is there. So the Course is saying you just have to change your mind. You just have to look at all of this, what the ego's created, which is really a disaster, and go, I see it. I see how it works. I get it, and I don't want any of it. I'm willing to return my mind to perfect oneness or love or God, whatever you want to call that. And I do that by forgiveness or letting go, whichever first. Letting go of these thoughts and emotions of the ego, and you've seen all of them: guilt, sin, fear, accusation, blame, complaint, and all the behaviors that go along with those things. As these things show up in my mind and I experience them, I have the choice. This is, to come to your point, Debbie. You always have the choice, right? So you're feeling fearful. Right? That's a seemingly normal human emotion. You feel it tens or hundreds of times a day. I feel a little stab of fear. So now I have a choice. Do I allow that to continue? Do I go deeper into that? Do I continue along that train of thought, and then the fear becomes worse, and then I'm perpetuating this whole thing? Or do I recognize it and go, no, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to allow my mind to dwell on that thought. I'm not going to follow that train of thought. I'm going to let it go instead. And when I let it go, what's left? There's no fear. There must be love, because those are the only two states ultimately that are available. So what I love about the Course's philosophy is it actually makes it very simple, although it's not easy. Saying, look, it's very simple. Don't try and make sense of what doesn't make sense. You will never make sense of the ego. You will never make sense of this world and what goes on here. You cannot really justify it. So you just need to make a clear-cut choice. And that choice is going to be made many, many times over the course of the rest of your life. But if you keep making that choice for love, and you make that choice when you let go of the negative thoughts and emotions that come up, then you cannot help but go back to love, because that's all that's left once you let go. So it's a philosophy of letting go, of cutting away really what is not you. So rather than personal growth teachings and other teachings, say, well, you've got to become something more, right? So you're not good enough as you are. You try and become something more, and you're going to become something more by usually doing something, by making more money, by achieving something great, by acquiring wealth, by getting a partner. That's a good one. Getting a special relationship. That'll add to you. You'll become something more. This is what the ego is always trying to get us to do. And so what it holds up in place of love is it holds up a lot of false idols in the world. Of course, it calls them false idols. It holds up things like money and power, status, fame, pleasure is another one, special relationship is a massive illusion. Finding Mr. or Mrs. Right. It holds up all of these things to try and keep your attention in the dream. Try and keep your attention away from the underlying problem, which is the separation in your own mind. And so we think that these things are going to work. We've created, I call them lanes. There's the lane of wanting pleasure. That's one of the idols of the ego. Power is another one. So that includes things like fame, success, in the world. All of these special relationships. All of these things are set up as alternatives by the ego. Try and get us focused on these things. So if you do these things and you get rich, you make more money, or you get Mr. Mrs. Right in your life, or you get lots of pleasurable experiences, lots of sex, or you shop a lot, or all these kinds of things. This is going to make you feel better. And, well, exactly, that's our addiction. So this is the desire aspect of the ego. So we go out of our minds and we attach to something outside of ourselves, and we think that this is going to make us happy, and this is going to solve our problems. But the Course is saying, look, it's not really going to solve your problems, because the real problem is the individual self that you think you made, and the fear and the guilt and sin that underlie that false self-concept. And until you address the false self-concept and you're willing to let it go, you cannot solve the problem. You're just spinning around in the problem. You go around and around and around, and eventually, we get old, we get tired of it, and we die. And then, well, it's not over, because the mind cannot really die. So you will just come back. It's called reincarnation. You'll come back into another form, into another body, in another life, in another time, and you'll do the whole thing again. And you'll try again to solve the problem of the world using the ego strategy, and it won't work. And we've been doing this for a very, very long time. I can guarantee you've all been here many, many times. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be listening to this right now. And we get tired of it. We start going, well, what is it all really about? What's the point? Why are we born? Why do we go through this life? And we have to learn all this stuff. We have to learn all these ways of the world and society. A lot of it doesn't really make sense. Seems to be a lot of suffering in the world. No one can really explain why. Politicians don't really have the answer. Formal religions don't really seem to have the answer. No one really seems to have the answer. Everyone's just kind of going along, sleepwalking through life, and then eventually we die. And so what is it all about, really? And the Course explains it. This is the explanation. Now, you can argue with this explanation, and there will be times during this course, I can guarantee you probably will be tempted to argue with it. And that might, temporarily make the ego feel better. In the end, you can't really dispute the logic of this. I haven't found another explanation that manages to explain how this all came about and why we're really here, and what the world's really all about, and why we're human, having human experience. That explains it like this. That actually makes sense, because it is logical. People say, oh, well, you can't really ever understand, it's just a mystery. And I don't buy that at all. You have to understand. Enlightenment is coming to understanding, to full understanding of what's really going on, of who you really are, why you're here, what the whole bigger picture is. And it's actually not that complex if you really look at it. But all that Jesus has done for us is he's laid it out in a very systematic way in this 1,200-page course called The Course in Miracles. And he's also helping us to practice this new thought system. Saying, oh, very well, you can understand this intellectually and theoretically, but you actually have to practice letting go of these false ideas and thoughts and emotions as they show up. And that's your practice in the world. That's how you will get out of this situation you're in. And that's how you will finally free yourself from the need to reincarnate, to come back into a body, to re-experience the physical universe, go through the whole thing again. And that's what your life is for. That's the true purpose and meaning of your life, is to find love, to find your way back to God. Again, you can dispute that. And the ego will go, no, 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 you know, it's to make money, or it's to build a successful business empire, or it's to do any number of things. And you know, it offers many different ways of playing out these desires. That's why we made up the world we have. We have many, what he calls mad careers. Jesus says mad careers and false idols and so on. But in the end, if we really look at it, what do we really want? In the end, every person and every living being really just wants love. And only you can give that love to yourself, right? It's up to you to go restore your mind back to an awareness of that, of love's presence. Okay, so I'll read. This is your reading for tonight, by the way, if you haven't already read it. I'm just going to read the introduction to the text of the course, which is a very short little passage. But as I said, it's something that you can really dwell on and meditate on. So when you read it later tonight, you're reading, just take this and just read it and ponder on it, reflect on it for a few minutes. So this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So he says it very clearly. The aim of the Course is to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. All these things that the ego has made up to replace love. Guilt, sin, fear, attack, hatred, anger, jealousy, rage. The whole Pandora's box of negativity that makes up the ego's thought system are the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is really our natural inheritance. That's what we were created with. That's what's still there. It can never be removed from our mind. Right? We have life because of it. That's all the Course is saying. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Yeah, so this is a kind of Zen. He's saying the opposite of love is fear. On this level, apparently opposite to love, and he calls it fear. All of these things can be labeled as one thing, fear. But this is what he does all the time in the Course, to get used to this. He then takes you from the one level to another. And he says, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So he's taking you back to that level of oneness. In a single sentence, he's saying, look, you think there's duality, you think there's fear, you think there's an opposite, but raising your mind up, what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. There is really no opposite to love. It's an illusion. It doesn't really exist. And then the final part of the introduction, nothing real can be threatened. This Course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. And if you really, really understand these three sentences, then you understand the Course. There would be no need for a course, because you would get it. So it's quite a useful exercise every now and then, just to remind yourself of these three sentences, the summation of the Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So he's saying nothing real can be threatened. Oneness, love cannot really be threatened, because it's still there. It can't ever go away. The ego can't destroy it. The idea that you can destroy love is a delusion. And because nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. So these false ideas and beliefs don't really exist, although they seem to. We've given them apparent reality, and we've created a world made out of these thoughts. They have no true existence. True existence is permanent, is eternal, never changing. These things change and fade away and die. And so there's no true existence there. There's no true being. How can there be true being if they're the opposite of true being? You see what I mean? And herein lies the peace of God. So when I truly accept this, I really realize that nothing real can be threatened, that love cannot really be threatened, and everything else is just unreal. I can find the peace of God, right? A peace that transcends anything in the world, a peace that is beyond anything that can happen in the world. And this is always where the Course is pointing us. It's not saying you'll find peace in the world. It's not saying you should try and fix the world or make sense of the world. He's saying just transcend it. Go to another place in your mind where none of this exists. That's quite hard to do when you're apparently in the body and you're apparently in the world and you're having human experiences. But that is our task. That's the way. And he's giving us, by giving us this very clear teaching in how this all came about, the way out becomes obvious. And that way out is to recognize that in the projections, in what you're seeing around you, these are just a reflection of this underlying thought system of sin and guilt and fear and attack and everything else. And when you recognize that that's the case, by forgiving these things, by denying their reality, that's really what you're doing when you forgive. You deny their reality. You deny their ability to impact you, to move you away from love. You are undoing the thought system that gave birth to all of it. Right? When you start undoing it on that level, some very interesting things start showing up in the dream. What's called those miracles. Right? So when you do the internal work, things show up in the dream, and often situations that might have seemed very difficult or impossible to solve and just resolve, because you've actually done it at the level of the mind, where the problem is being created in the first place. And that's the only place where you can really solve the problem. You cannot solve it out there in the illusion, and that's what we've been trying to do for a very long time. Humanity's, we're trying to fix the world, we're trying to make the world better, we're always developing it, we're trying to manipulate this reality we created, make it better, to make it work for us. And temporarily that can seem to have an impact. Yes, you can work hard and you can make more money, and that might make your life here seemingly better, but you're still caught up in time and space, and your life, no amount of money is gonna save you from the body's death, which is kind of why Jesus said, look, it's illusions of the truth. You give your mind to God, or you give it to Mammon, as he called it, which is another word for illusion. But you cannot have both. You cannot serve both masters. You give your mind to the illusion, and you squander, in the words of Meheli Csikszentmihalyi, you squander your confidence in seeking external rewards, then you cannot find the peace of God. The two are mutually exclusive. Because if you do that, then you're caught up in desire, you're caught up in fear, and you are separated from oneness by definition. So this is how the ego works. You need to start to see just how entrenched it is in your own psyche, in the psyche of humanity, how it's entrenched in the world, the way the world operates. And the world will always operate that way. The world was created to operate that way, so that we could have an individual experience, and we could come here, have our individual experience, and try and get rid of our fear and our sin and our guilt by projecting it outwards, blaming others. And that's why it was set up as a home away from God, where we have to suffer. Part of the deal. If we didn't suffer, then the ego is out of business. Why would it fear or be guilty or feel any of these other negative emotions? If there was nothing, if there was only perfect peace, there would be no reason. So peace and love and joy are the enemies of the ego, and it doesn't want you to experience them ever. So realize, like, as you're going through this course, you just got to be aware of that dynamic going on in your own mind, that there's a part of you that that actually identifies with the ego, that thinks it's the ego, that thinks it's human, and that doesn't really want to let go of these thoughts and emotions, even though they evidently make no sense, and they make you suffer. Part of you is addicted to them. And so that part is going to resist this course, and it's going to resist these teachings, and it's going to resist the sessions, and it's going to try and make you not do the meditation. It's going to not try and say, we'll skip the session, or drop out of the course. You don't need this stuff. Just be aware of that. Be aware of that dynamic that's going to go on. There is going to be a resistance, but the other part of your mind, the Holy Spirit, will say to you, yeah, you know that, but just do it anyway. Carry on, because actually what you really want, you want love, and you want peace, you want joy, and the ego's way hasn't worked. If it had worked, you wouldn't be doing this course now, because you wouldn't need to. You'd be perfectly enlightened and free and happy, and there would be no need to study what you already know. No need to practice what you already know, as he says in the course. So it's kind of a paradox, because we don't really need anything in truth and oneness. We're all perfect and whole and complete. But in our current apparent reality, we're seemingly separated from that. And so a journey needs to be taken, right? This journey of undoing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, letting these go, forgiving these, whatever language you want to use. And that's the only reason we're here. Right, is to undertake that journey, to use our lives constructively for that purpose, so that ultimately, when we finally leave this place, your body is going to die at some point. Your mind is in a state of enlightenment. Your mind is in a state where it understands the truth. You come to self-realization. You know who you are. You know that you are oneness. You know that you're not the ego. And then there would be absolutely no reason to come back. To come back to this place and re-experience the human existence.
That part of your mind, which is God, it's not a split mind.
Yes. If there's no split mind, if you've really denied the reality of the ego, and it's no longer real in your mind, you are enlightened. There's no reason to be human again. There's no reason to separate and come into a separate form and re-experience that. And that's the ultimate objective of the course, is to free your mind to that point where yes, you'll continue to knock around for a few years in the human form and live out the rest of your life, but you're free of the ego, and you can in that state you can experience a lot of happiness, a lot of joy, a lot of peace, and help other people to do that as well, because you become the living embodiment of those ideas and those states of being, as Jesus was, as people like Buddha and Jesus and other masters who've come have been to show us. And that is the purpose of your life. That's the only purpose, to bring yourself into that state of mind more and more consistently and regularly. So ultimately you rest in God. I rest in God.
As far as
says
Jesus' life go, why did he have to be crucified?
Well, that's a good question. He explains it in the course. No, but that was his choice. Jesus came to show us, and he showed, that actually someone can live in an egoless way, that someone can just be loving, and no matter what, even when. Okay, so his master teaching, the crucifixion, was there to teach us that even when someone does the worst thing to you, crucifies you, right? He's been killed. He's been dying in this horrible way. You can let that go because it's still untruth. It's still part of this untruth system of guilt and sin and fear and punishment and attack. And that's not true. And ultimately, your mind cannot die. And so the real message of the crucifixion was not the crucifixion, it was the resurrection. Saying, look, yes, the world will seemingly try and do this to you, and seemingly, attack and guilt and sin and hatred. And I will go through this experience to show you that, yes, on the physical level, the body can apparently die and all this horrible stuff can seemingly happen in this world. But I will come back. I'll come back. I'll bring my mind back into the physical form temporarily to show my disciples and the world, because this is a message that's, you know, continued. We're talking about it today, so the lesson is still as relevant as it was then. To show people that there is no death, that actually you can't die. The mind is eternal, and I'm in such a state of mastery that I can do that. I can bring my mind back into the body temporarily to demonstrate this to the world and to teach the world a very powerful lesson.
It was a different body though that you made.
Well, was it the same body? Was it a different body? It doesn't really matter. He came into a physical form that was able to be perceived by people so that they would believe the message that he taught. Because otherwise they wouldn't have believed, would they? If they hadn't believed, then his whole teaching would have died, and Christianity as we know it wouldn't have come into being. And yes, and we may not well be studying the course today. The fact that it's all kind of a part of a plan. A few participants raised that. Great. Yeah, questions, comments? Debbie?
I was just thinking that one of the things that I'd read up, it could be in the course, was that the crucifixion and the resurrection are actually what we do to ourselves. There's the crucifixion. We crucify ourselves all our lives.
Yeah.
And then when we let go of that, then we actually are resurrected in the divine energy of whatever you want to call it, you know, God, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's trying to demonstrate that as well.
Jesus was trying to just demonstrate that in a very kind of demonstrable way.
Okay, thank you, Debbie.
to show that really, yes, he actually got crucified physically and came back, but it's not really about that, and we don't have to repeat what he did. Which is kind of a master teaching for humanity. Yeah. He's showing us, look, this is what you do to yourself. Yeah. You know, you crucify yourself with your own fearful thoughts and your own guilt and your own sin. But resurrection is possible, right? Resurrection, forgiveness, atonement, it's all the same thing. It's the idea that you can let these ideas and thoughts and feelings and emotions go, that you can, that you don't have to dwell on them, that you can find a place in your peace and happiness and joy, even in a world that often seems to be, you know, dead set against these things. It seems to be designed to try and make you fear and feel guilty, and because remember, that's what set it. That's what set it up. We set it up that way because we wanted a separate experience and we wanted to escape the guilt and the fear, and so we had to come into it. All kind of makes sense. You understand how we got ourselves into the mess that we're in. But actually, it's not that difficult to get out of it. Saying, look, when you study this, you really start to do this process of forgiveness. That's how I did it. I found my way out that way, and I'm gonna teach you to do the same. And in fact, that's the only way. There isn't another way than letting go of forgiveness, whatever you want to call it. In Buddhism, they call it detachment or non-attachment. It's the same thing. Non-attachment. I'm not attached to the physical world. I'm not attached to my desires. Buddha identified that he didn't quite have the same insight as Jesus into the idea of sin and guilt, but he identified that desire was a key component of suffering. Well,
desire is the ego, isn't it?
Sorry?
Sorry, I shouldn't have just jumped in. Sorry.
No,
desire is the ego.
Yeah, the desire for something other than what we are, the desire to be something else, the desire for something other than love and oneness and truth and all of that. Well, what could we desire but that? If that's all being, if that's everything we could possibly want, why would the ego want anything else? Because it desired, remember, that first tiny mad idea of separation was the desire for another experience. That's what it was. Yeah. Oh, what if I could be different? What if I could, I'm kind of bored of oneness and perfect peace and joy and bliss forever. What if I could have a different experience? Oh, that's an interesting idea. So now out of that little seed of an idea, that desire for some other experience comes all of it, comes guilt and sin and fear. So in some ways, that is the core of it. The desire to be something else. But what keeps it entrenched is guilt. So what keeps that individual identity entrenched is the thought that we've done this terrible, awful thing, and now we deserve to be punished for it.
But if you keep on forgiving, will that guilt go?
Yes, it has to. Because forgiveness is the undoing of all of these emotions, right? So when we went into this process, you felt a release. You felt some kind of, okay, yes, there was a heaviness, there was a darkness, that's all ego. Then I'd let that go, right? The more you do that, you get into the very core, right? You get into the very core of it. It's not about the external. It's the feeling, the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions that are going on inside of you. That's where the course is taking you. And look at those. If those feelings are not peaceful, they're of the ego. There's not this nice, open, happy, expansive, light feeling, then anything else is ego.
I can sense it, like if I'm angry about it.
Yeah, not light, it's not free, it's not, right? It's all part of this thought system. So it contracts us, it brings us down, it's dense. Yeah, and it is unnatural. That's what he's saying. You know, love is your natural inheritance. Blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The problem is we've got very confused. Because we've done this, we've believed in the ego for so long, and we've created it as the God we worship, an identity we want, the reality that, you know, the master of this reality. We have a false allegiance. We've identified with that, and we keep doing this, and we're addicted to it. And it becomes very difficult to get ourselves out of it, unless you've got a teaching and a teacher to help you, which is the purpose of the I will teach you. I did it. I've done this, guys. Like I'm not in the world anymore. I've transcended the world. I'm out of it. Right? So I am the bridge. Yes, because I've walked the path. I've done it. Right?
Okay.
The human teachers are still struggling to do it. Anyone still in human form is still struggling with this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. Right? So they're still struggling with it. So I try and stick as closely as I possibly can to what the Course is saying. He's saying things here for a reason. There's nothing wasted. You can start to misinterpret and do all kinds of things. And I've seen teachers do this, where they kind of like, it's like, that's not really what it's saying.
Yeah.
But he's very, very clear. He's saying, look, there's a choice. Nothing real can be threatened. Love cannot really be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. It doesn't really exist. And you have to keep reminding yourself of it. Even though you're having the experience, and it all seems to be very real, and you think you're in form, you think you've got this identity, and you think you've got this life, it doesn't really exist. Okay? That is an absolutely fundamental principle of the Course. Because there's only two choices. You either say it exists or it doesn't exist. You see that? That's the split. It's either real or it's not real. There's no in between.
Real.
They do, but you can let them go. Right? You just experienced a little bit of it. And how real was it? If you can let it go, it can't be real. Right? Guilt and fear and sin and all these things, they come and go. Okay? They're not permanent states. We can go, like, the ego can, I call it an ego, to really have a go at you. You can really like feel it, and it's awful, but it doesn't last, especially if you know how to do forgiveness. You can release that.
Yeah.
So it can't be real, because otherwise, if the ego was real, we'd be permanently in guilt and sin and fear, and our lives would be a perpetual nightmare. There would be nothing else. So it's self-evident that these things can't be real. Right? We couldn't be alive. I mean, if the ego believes in death, there could be no life. Or there could be nothing. None of this could be. There could be no awareness at all if it weren't for the ego.
The reason why this is only just come through in this life, virtually 70 years ago.
Debbie, I saw your hand. I'm just Hazel's question.
No.
It's fine.
Is it
do yours first.
we just want to be ready in past lives?
Well, it's just an evolution, right? I don't think the world was ready for this. Certainly wasn't ready for Jesus' teaching 2,000 years ago, really. When they crucified him. But, you know, it was part of the process.
Don't step out of what your religious belief, otherwise, you know, God will get you and punish you.
Well, most religions are based the formal religion.
Do you know where my envelope with money is? Because I cannot find it in my closet.
Hello?
I'll check for you. Go.
Sorry,
That's my son.
Oh, right.
Sorry, guys, I need to
That's
go. Yeah.
Hello.
That was my son.
It's okay, no problem. So just to speak to what
All right.
Hazel said, that the formal religion has they lost the plot very soon after the
From the very
founders.
beginning.
Well, from the very beginning,
Yeah.
disciples didn't fully understand his message. He even says that in the course. So from the very beginning, even those original disciples didn't fully understand what he said. They didn't fully understand fiction. They had their own issues. They had guilt. They still believed in the Jewish tradition.
Now, when we've got more chance of understanding.
Because it's not required.
Why was it 2,000 years ago that he incarnated?
Hazel, I can't answer that.
I'm sorry, okay.
I don't know. That was his time. He came, he did his thing, he came to his enlightenment, and he went, right, I've given a message to the world, you know. If I knew that, I'd be God. I don't know. That was his time. That was his final lifetime.
Buddha was even before him, 500 years before him.
Just like
Buddha was, Buddha was 500 years before him.
He was, you know.
Just said that, yeah.
And so these people come and they have their experience and they leave markers for us. They leave a signpost. If you want to follow it, you can go, okay, there was a man, there were two men who in their time were pretty radical, pretty revolutionary, and they turned the existing philosophy upside down. And that made a massive impact on the world. You know, there's two of the major religions of the world were formed based on their life and their teachings. So you can then follow that. You can go, great. And fortunately, we're now in a day and age, because of the wonders of technology, we have books, we have video, we have computers, we have all
now
these tools.
Have the second coming.
Yeah, that weren't available then, right? And we can study this stuff freely. No one is persecuting us for reading A Course in Miracles, thank God. Whereas in, ages gone past, you would be, if we started doing this in the Middle Ages, we'd be accused of witchcraft and heresy.
A lot of us were.
Probably. So we're in a very fortunate time where this information has come through. This course is available for us. In fact, we are more fortunate than Jesus' disciples because they didn't have this. They didn't have as comprehensive a work or detailed setting of the thought system of Jesus and how he did it, right? And a path saying, right, I'm not just going to give you the theory, I'm also going to give you a workbook. I'm going to take you by the hand day by day, and I'm going to give you these simple exercises to do. And together we're going to go back. We're going to climb the ladder. So from the bottom of the ego, victim identity, you're gonna climb back up. You can start questioning all these false beliefs. You can start questioning, well, why am I fearful? I must be fearful of an illusion. And you start undoing these thoughts, make up the ego. Why am I guilty? There's nothing to be guilty for. Yeah. Because I'm still at one with God. I've never really separated. There's a part of my mind that's still there.
And then what were these ladies going to ask?
Debbie, you had a question.
What I want, just probably forgotten most of it. Yeah, what I wanted to say is that just to go back to some of the things that you were saying is that there's two things. I do some work with some Dao people, and they speak about, and the Indians do as well, the Kali Yugas, the big time changes in the world. Yes. And we've gone out of a time to talk about Hazel's question about why didn't anything happen when Jesus was around, is that it wasn't meant to happen. He was here to teach, as Buddha was, and was to select people. And then the time has changed into a new time now, where everybody can learn what the monks and the priests were learning in that time. Mm. If you're talking in big time, or if you understand all that, I mean, I don't really, but it's just what I've understood from what they say. Is the time changes means that it opens up and more people are aware and can actually learn. And then the second thing that also perpetuates things that I learned, and I didn't fully understand until I learned this a while ago, was that a belief system, as you said earlier, Jonathan, is that the ego is based on beliefs. And the trouble is that when our beliefs are threatened, we literally feel that our life is in danger, that our life is threatened.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people don't change their thinking, is because they change it easily, is because they feel that their life is literally threatened. Because it's a construct of who the ego thinks it is.
Yeah. Because the ego feels threatened, and the ego is made up of these false beliefs.
And the beliefs, yeah, exactly, which are the underpinning of who
false beliefs.
Yeah.
And thoughts and emotions, a whole bundle of, negativity, really. And so if you're doing this work, then you're going to go up against that. You go up against the ego, and you will find that there's a resistance, and that there's a part of you that doesn't want to let go. It finds it incredibly threatening. In fact, it feels like, someone said on my last course, that it feels like death.
Well, it is. It's someone trying to kill you.
Because on a level, the ego has to die in order for the spirit to be resurrected in your mind. That's how it works. The two are mutually exclusive. They contradict each other. So the human side of you has to die in order for the spirit to fully, to attain full enlightenment. And that is not an easy process, right? Dying is like, you do feel like, although you're not physically dying, you feel like, oh, it's dreadful sometimes, awful. But you have to be willing to go through those really uncomfortable, difficult, even painful emotions in order to do this work.
Who did you work with?
She was talking about some Taoists and also some Indian teachers, Indian teachings. They talk about the Kali Yugas. So there's these different ages.
Kali Yuga,
There's different ages of man.
Okay.
And it's like 2,000 years at a time or something. So Jesus came and he brought in another age. 2,000 years have elapsed, and now this signifies and everything that sort of happened in the 60s and 70s. There's a whole awakening of consciousness and the whole hippie movement. So there's no accident. This came in the 60s. It was given in the 60s and early 70s. It was part of that awakening. Like, okay, there's a new
age.
Yes, this is the start of a new age, and now. We've got this teaching, and it's up to us to use it or not. It's available for everyone. There's something like 2 or 3 million copies that have been sold, so it's out there. But it's still a pretty new spiritual path. It's only 50 odd years old, and it's not the easiest path to study on your own. In case you hadn't noticed yet, you start reading this. Like, a lot of people are going to read that introduction and go, right. Yeah. What does that all mean then? That's right. How do I make sense of that? Well, the opposite of love is fear, but what is all encompassing can have no opposite.
Yeah.
How do so he's talking to different levels of your mind. It's a very, very sophisticated teaching. Psychologically, very, very in fact, I don't know of anything else that is as sophisticated and detailed in explaining how the human mind works as the course. So
the Buddhists are pretty clear too. Yeah.
Sorry?
So the Buddhist teachings are also extremely clear on what happened, but not in the same terminology. They use different terminology too.
Yeah. So Buddha, I'd say next to the course, Buddhist teaching is very good. There's a lot of truth there. They talk about the mind, observing the mind, desire being the source of suffering. Buddhism tends to lack a couple of things, in my view. Doesn't really go into the idea of guilt and sin and explain how the whole separation came about. So it doesn't do the whole.
Because they don't believe in God, you see, they don't have a God.
So Buddha, didn't talk about God, but he did talk about nirvana. So there's a kind of a reality,
energy,
nirvana, heaven. I think there's maybe a good reason for that. I think the word God is very loaded in people's minds. They have a false idea of what God is, and so if you bring God into it, suddenly all of that baggage comes with it. And I think what he was trying to do was just to say, well, look, just go into the mind and observe and notice what's happening, and don't bring any of that baggage, because in his time the Hindus, you know, Hinduism was a major religion,
Yes.
and they had not just one god, they had multiple gods.
There was different aspects.
Well, you see, but it all gets very confusing because
yeah.
now you've got the god for this and the god for that, and
Yeah.
people are worshipping these separate gods. And I think he wanted to just kind of get away from all of that. Say, look, go into the mind and find nirvana, find a place where there's just happiness and there's just peace. Well, Jesus called that the kingdom of heaven. Buddha called it nirvana.
But you know,
6 of one, half a dozen of another.
The
The same thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, they're talking about the same
Mm.
fundamental state of consciousness. That's what it really is. It's a
You know,
state of being of consciousness.
just talking to different people, they are far more accepting of Buddhism than Islam. I think it's because of all the terrorism that goes hand in hand.
Well, Islam is, you know, it has unfortunately become quite a fundamentalist religion. However, I want to send you something that Debbie sent me yesterday. In fact, post it on the Facebook group as well, please, Debbie.
Oh, should I do? Okay.
Yeah, please. I mean, that's the idea, is, you know, post these things. But I'll forward that on WhatsApp to everyone, because it's an amazing video. That video is quite extraordinary. So there's this Muslim guy, and his son's been killed by in America by some guys, black guys, just for money or whatever. And he's sitting in court with the chap, the killer, and he embraces him. He says, no, you know, I really felt compassion for this person because he's in a difficult situation. He's going to prison for life. His life he's ruined his life. And
so now I've met Sufis. They are wonderful,
so
beautiful people.
There's this guy who's got this compassion. He says, you know,
Yeah.
God, what was the name of the thing? It was a Muslim word, sa something.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but I'll send it to you. But the fundamental premise, there are 5 basic tenets of true Islam, true Muslim, being a true Muslim.
Okay.
The first one is this idea of mercy, of forgiveness. Number 1, right?
Exactly.
So of course, you know, fundamentalist Muslims don't do that. They want to go and kill people because they think, but that is not what the teaching was originally.
I mean, they even throw their own gay people off.
Yeah, but that is not the teaching. That is not.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just as in all religion, you know, and in Christianity, it's been corrupted. You know, Jesus never said go out and kill people in the name of God, but yet, you know, they did that frequently through the last 2,000 years.
The Crusaders were the
Crusaders
first to run a holy jihad.
Yeah, and you know, the Spanish Inquisition, and I mean, dreadful things have happened in the name of God, which, you know, to be fair to Buddhism, has never really happened in Buddhist teaching, because the idea of God just didn't enter into it. And so in some ways,
it's a good thing,
in some ways it's very helpful just to point to this inner state of being, and that inner state of being connected to love is God. That is it, whatever you want to call that. Buddha didn't label it and give it a name.
That's the problem. As the Course says, as soon as you label something, it's a problem.
One of the challenges of the Course is the language. So a lot of people go, oh, God, heaven, Holy Spirit, Jesus. No, don't want anything to do with it, because I've got all these false associations of, you know, this is what these things mean, and it's associated with formal Christianity, and I don't buy that at all. And look at what they've done, and you know, the Catholic Church has been responsible for some of the most heinous crimes in history. How can I believe in this? But it's just language, right? These are symbols.
Is that what all the Jewish people with this?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. And you know, if you identify yourself as Jewish, and now suddenly this is by Jesus and the Holy Spirit and Christian terminology.
I didn't believe Jesus lived.
But these are just symbols, right? These are pointers for us. So don't get hung up on the terminology. God is a pointer to a state of infinite love, of eternal love. That's what God means in the Courses. And so as you start to read it, you start to see that.
Yeah.
Like because we're using language, he has to use language because it's a book, and he has to teach us in some way. He's using these terms, and he's chosen the Christian terminology because that's what he did. That was his terminology to start with, and that's what's come to be known as Christianity. So he's chosen a language for the Course. But in the course, and you'll notice in the introductory session, I used some different language. I talked about flow instead of miracles.
Okay.
Talked about oneness instead of God. Talk about love and fear rather than, you know, the devil and God. These, because it's just language.
Yeah.
What these things are doing is they're pointing us to these inner states, to these thoughts and these emotions, these inner states. And that's what the course is designed to do. So don't get hung up on the language and try and look beyond it.
I really thought you had quite a few.
Well, a couple of them did the thing, but look, this isn't for everyone. This is a very niche. To really undertake this, most people are not going to do this in their lifetime. If you're really serious about this, you know, enlightenment has never been a mass sport, if you like. It's a, you know, it's for a few dedicated people who really decide, like, this is what I want. This is what I want to do with my life. I'm willing to follow this, and I'm willing to go to places that other people don't want to go to. And I'm willing to put in effort that other people don't want to do. So you're all here on a Sunday. Most people are out and about. They're with family, you know, they whatever. But you've taken the time to do this because you realize that it's important, that this is what you want. This is a major part of your life. To learn this stuff and to start to live it is the real purpose of your life. And to, you know, try and bring it into your daily life and into your experience, and hopefully help some people. I mean, you can't save the world, you can't fix it, you can't. But if you can help a few people, you can start, you know, to be someone who stands for love and peace and joy in this world, and who maybe inspires some people to do the same. That's kind of the best you can do in this world. So I hope that's all made sense. Just wherever, let's see what the time is. I think we've been going on. Okay, so it's now 3:30. So just to wrap the session up, any questions? Anything you want to comment on? Questions?
All good, thank you, Jono. Thank you.
Okay. Did it make sense? Lebo?
Yeah. I think she had to go.
Oh, right. Okay. She's still connected, but oh, hang on. Is she unmute? Lebo, are you there? Let's try and unmute her.
She had to go, yeah.
Okay. Well, she's showing as muted. Okay. So just to close off the session, let's just do a little 1 or 2 minute closing process. So close your eyes. Just reconnect with your breathing. Nice deep inhales and exhales. And just taking your mind back to a place of stillness, of peace. Just connecting with this part of your mind, of course, called God, love, peace, joy, oneness. Just give thanks for the session, start of, will hopefully prove to be a life-changing journey for you over the next 6 weeks. Thanks that you could participate in it. Give thanks for people who are with you in this, and for the connection we experienced, and for the guidance of the Holy Spirit, which is always there. And just try and stay in this peace that passes all understanding for the rest of the evening and on into tomorrow until the next session. I will be sending you another little reminder to do a breath break in an hour or so, hour and a half. And then this evening, there will be a session at 8 p.m. Sorry, 8 p.m. tonight. 8 p.m. tonight. If you'd like to join that, It's likely to be a little bit of a different session. It's also an introductory session. There are going to be a couple of people, hopefully, who haven't signed up for the course yet. So a little bit of a different energy. We'll also do a meditation. You're welcome to join that if you want. Just go to the same URL, just give me half an hour. I'm just going to change the redirect, ACIM Illuminations, and you'll be able to sign up for that session. And then from tomorrow, you'll be able to access the session just from one link. I'll send that to you tomorrow morning. If I don't see you later, have a blessed evening and sleep well. Try and do the do the power sleep meditation. And a little bit of reflection. So I'm going to give you 3 questions. I'll send you an email just now. 3 questions to ask and answer for yourself tonight, and just to help you to reflect on the day's learning. And then get up tomorrow and try and do the meditation first thing. So thank you very much. Open your eyes. Go on with your day in this hopefully nice, happy, expanded state. And I might catch you tonight. Let me just unmute you. Anyone want to do tonight?
I might pop in. Thank you.
Yeah. So just as I said, wait half an hour or so, and I'll send out an email. So you'll get the email. Just you click on the link and you can book in for tonight's session. It'd be great actually if you can be there, because I might have a couple of newbies who haven't signed up for the course. So it's always good to have some experienced people who are doing the course as well. Lebo, are you still there? I can't seem to unmute you. Okay, I don't know if she's there or not, but she's gone away. Thank you. That was. I will post this in the Facebook group, so it'll be available as a video, also as audio. So I upload it just as an audio file, and I'll post the link in the Facebook group as well.
And thanks for your input, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you.
Yours.
That was a great first session, and hopefully those who weren't here, there are about 14 people who actually signed up on some level to do the course, but inevitably not everyone comes to every session. So hopefully we'll get better participation tomorrow. And if there's 5 to 10 people, it can be quite nice to have a session around these things. Yeah, check your email a bit later. I'll email you about tonight's reading. It's basically just the introduction, and do your power sleep track as you reflect on that. And I'll give you 3 questions to ponder on, just to ask yourself before you go to bed, just as a way of reflecting on the day. And I'll send you another breath break in an hour or so you can do that as well.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks
So much, Jonathan. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it.
It's absolutely a pleasure. I really benefit as much as you from these sessions. So couldn't do it on my own. So thank you for being part of it. Debbie, did anyone you told about the course sound interested in doing it?
A couple of them, but you know what it's like. I've just WhatsApped somebody now and just try and remind them that they've got a chance tonight, and I'll remind the other 2 people as well that 3 people that I've spoken to. Yeah,
because tonight, I mean, I'll see how the session goes and see who arrives, but I might just do more of an introduction to the course than this, just depending on who shows up. It's going to kind of go with the flow on that. So, but it will, one way or another, it will be a good introduction to the thing for them. So yeah, tonight 8 o'clock. I'll send out an email in the next hour or so. Forward that on to them, or just send them the acimilluminations.com link. But just wait a little bit. I've just got to change the redirect on it.
I'll wait for your email rather and just send that email.
Cool.
It's just easier, I think.
Yeah, it is. Cool.
And the easier you make it, the better for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Right. Okay, so Lebo just said thank you. She had to go at past. So Right. Need to go to the bathroom. Okay, I missed all that in the chat. All right. Thank you, Lebo. You're not here, but thank you, everyone. It's been great, and hopefully see you tonight.
Thank you. Chat.
Okay.
Thanks a lot again. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.